Vayomer ha'adam zot hapam etzem me'atamai uvasar mibsari lezot yikare isha ki me'ish lukazot al ken ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo vedavak beishto vehayu levasar echad. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet vehayei olam nata betoheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
My Torah portion, Bereshit, tells the story of how Adam was placed into the Garden of Eden. God tells Adam that he may eat from every tree in the garden, except for the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If you eat from that tree, God exclaims, you shall be doomed to die. Not wanting Adam to be alone, God forms the wild animals and the birds of the sky, and he calls upon Adam to name them. But even with all the animals in the garden, Adam finds none as his helpmate. So God puts Adam into a deep sleep, opens his chest, and removes one of his ribs. With the rib of man, God forms a new creature. When Adam awakes, he looks at the new creation and says, let this one be called woman, as it was taken from man. Now Adam has a helpmate and is alone no longer. And the Bible tells us that man will leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they will become one flesh. On the outside, my portion seems pretty straightforward. It tells us what God said and what Adam did. I had to strain my eyes to see beyond the simple surface. God said to Adam, you may eat all you like of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you may not eat, for the moment you eat of it, you will die. God is telling Adam not to eat from the tree. Then why did God make the tree in the first place? Why did God move the tree from the edge of the garden where Adam showed no interest in it at all to the center where he was more likely to see it? Then, when Adam didn't notice or care about it, why then did God tell him not to eat from it, if not as an attempt to make Adam notice it was there? And why did God make the snake to tempt Adam and Eve into eating from the tree? Why would God do all of these things if God didn't want Adam and Eve to eat from the tree? Did God actually want Adam and Eve to eat from the tree? Was it a scheme? In Rabbi Lawrence Kushner's Midrash, he says, can you imagine telling an adolescent as you leave the house, you can do whatever you like, just don't go in the top drawer of my dresser? Sure, Mom. Right, Dad. Thanks for the tip. Kushner continues, what a different world it would be if the forbidden fruit were on one unknown tree hidden deep in one primordial garden. The chances are high that we might never have discovered it, and we would all live in childhood eternal. So why did God want Adam and Eve to eat from the tree? Rabbi Kushner writes about a rabbinic tradition that believes that God created and destroyed other worlds before ours. Each was deficient in some vital way. After universes of infantile obedience, Kushner writes, Adam and Eve remained tediously, predictably, and incorrigibly infantile. God reasoned, better they should become autonomous human beings than goody two-shoe infants. So God resorted to a setup. But why? Kushner reasons that Adam and Eve were lovingly tricked into committing the primal act of disobedience that alone could ensure their separation from God, their individuation, and their expulsion from childhood's garden. But what is the benefit to being independent? Some people have suggested that in order to raise your own children, you need to have the wisdom of life. If you don't know bad, how will you know good? But why is it important to God for a child to become an individual? I don't know for sure, but this much I can tell you. If God hadn't said I was allowed to be an individual, I wouldn't be standing up here today. I wouldn't be able to navigate my own thoughts. I guess God needed us to be individuals, needed us to be creators, parents, and teachers. In a way, we are more like God if we have the ability to think on our own and create based on our thinking. I'm lucky to have a gradual transition between childhood and adulthood. My life so far has pretty much been in its own Garden of Eden. But I know that there are many kids whose lives aren't nearly as easy as mine. There are kids who are forced to grow up at the age of 7 or even earlier. Was this God's wish? Does God care when or how we obtain our knowledge? So as we are eventually given the knowledge of good and evil, does it become our responsibility to correct evil and make good? Is it God's ultimate plan that we will all obtain the knowledge of good and evil, and because of that, correct all evil and make all good? And finally, what can I do to make our world better? I realize that I have many questions and limited answers, but I suppose that's okay. Just as my portion comes at the beginning of the Torah, I am at the beginning of my journey as a Jewish adult. It is just creation, the process of making something, and we are both in it. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.